Hi everybody and welcome back to Lost Genre Reddit Stories. This post is from the subreddit Off My Chest and it's by user ColdCake8698. My spouse came out to me as asexual a few months ago. Tomorrow, I am handing them divorce papers. They are going to be devastated. Basically, the title. My spouse and I have been together for 8 years. Our sex life has had lots of ups and downs. Sometimes it felt like it was fire and was really good, but there were long stretches where I felt like I was starving. While they never denied me when I initiated, the lack of initiation on their part has destroyed my self-esteem and has left me so incredibly unfulfilled. I have so missed the feeling of being desired and having my partner seduce me. It was really hard for my spouse to come out. They were so nervous and scared. I effing hugged them and thanked them for telling me. I effed up and told them everything will be alright, but it won't be. I can't go the rest of my life with a partner who isn't sexually attracted to me. So I spoke with a lawyer. I'm so worried about my spouse. They are really dependent on me socially, emotionally, and financially. And I know that they love me. They love me more than anyone ever has in my entire life. I wish love could be enough for me to be happy in a relationship. Tomorrow is really going to suck. OP, I understand what has made you take this decision. You both are completely incompatible sexually, and it is absolutely fair to want to feel desired in your relationship, and what you're doing, I think, is the right thing. This would be a deal breaker. However, I don't think springing divorce papers on them out of the blue is the right way to go. I would imagine that the least that you could do for this person that I'm assuming that you love as well, the only thing is that there is no sex, is that you would want them to not be blindsided and you would want to help them move forward. You said this person is absolutely dependent on you. Well, while you are working through the divorce, you can also help them try to get on their feet and stand alone. The fact that you guys are ending your marriage because of this incompatibility, well, I don't think that warrants you being cruel like this, and I would think it's cruel for you to just spring this on them without them even knowing about it or having a plan on how to move forward. At this moment, they think their life is okay. They came out to their partner accepted them, said that everything was gonna be okay, and then all of a sudden out of the blue, you pulled the rug from under them with divorce papers. So like I said, while I understand your reason for why your marriage will be ending, I don't think the way you're doing it would be the right way. And what do you guys think about OP's decision and execution? Let me know in the comment section, and now let's move on to the community comments to see what they said. Plastic Technician 2 says, may I suggest taking a more human approach and speaking to them before you hand them any divorce papers? Feels cold and incredibly harsh to do it the way you've currently chosen. Speak to them like a normal human being. Express your feelings and let them express theirs. Divorce may be the answer regardless, but the path you've chosen now will hurt even more. They're a person with feelings, your partner of 8 years. Your partner has done well by you, treated you well, and cannot control their asexuality. They deserve better than that, OP. And OP responds, honestly, if I leave it open for discussion, I don't know if I will have the strength to go through with it. I plan to sit them down and tell them that I am pursuing divorce and leaving the same day. I know it sucks to blindside them, but there is no saving our relationship at this point. They are going to try to save it though. That's why I couldn't talk them out of it. Great Mango Juicy 07 says, might I suggest a simple conversation first, allowing them to get used to the idea first so that it's more of a mutual understanding type of thing rather than a punishment? Seems incredibly harsh to just hand them the papers so suddenly. I understand how hard it must be, but this will likely eat at your conscience too. Sad smiley face. I think a divorce would be good and you can't control sexual compatibility, but there's a way to go about these things, logically and sensibly. Sinsemilla Street says, after hugging them, thanking them, and reassuring them that everything would be okay, you allowed months to pass and let them believe things were good when really you had been secretly preparing with a lawyer to drop this bomb on them? That seems callous. Why wouldn't you communicate with them? And OP responds, at the time, I thought it was going to be okay. I really didn't know what else to say. After thinking about it for a couple of weeks, learning about asexuality and speaking with a therapist about it, I realized that I would never be able to be happy in this relationship. I know that if I had tried to speak with my spouse about it, they would have done everything they could to save the relationship, and honestly, I was afraid that if that happened, I would fall for it and we would end up dragging out this relationship even longer. I don't know if I would have the willpower to stay strong and stick to my guns. I know it's sick to blindside them, but I'm the bad guy either way. At least this way, I can stay firm and not give them false hope. Additional information from OP's comments. I pretty much hate my life right now. Logically, I know this is the right thing for us. They deserve to be with someone who is completely happy with them and is compatible with their sexuality. But it really sucks to do it. We have actually spoken about their asexuality, back when they first told me and a few times since. They will never feel the desire to initiate things with me, and I am not okay with that being the sexual dynamic of my marriage. To those of you telling me to compromise, I ask, what compromise is there when it is a base incompatibility with their sexuality? If this were a typical marriage problem, I absolutely would have pursued counseling. However, I don't see how one can compromise on attraction. My spouse is not, nor have they ever been sexually attracted to me. So what do you suggest is the compromise here? For me, sex is incredibly important and is one of the most important expressions of love in a relationship. Additionally, some people are telling me that my wife is who she is and I should respect that. To that, I'm just going to say that you are being very presumptuous about our genders. Also, and just to make things clear, an open relationship is not an option. I am strictly monogamous. I am not the type of person who is capable of having multiple partners. An open relationship isn't going to help me meet the needs that are currently missing in my relationship. What I need is for my spouse to be sexually attracted to me. I am not taking this decision lightly. I have been in therapy for the last 5 months. My therapist helped me work through this and decide on a divorce. When they came out to me, I realized that it was not going to get better, that this is who they are. Before they came out, we were working on making our sex life better. When I had hope that it could be fixed, that was one thing. But this isn't something that can be fixed, it is who they are. Yes, my spouse will have sex. However, that is not enough for me. I need my partner to want sex, not just be okay with it happening. And yes, we worked on our sex life for years prior. That was what started them on the journey to discovering their sexuality. During that time, we were talking to doctors about libido, troubleshooting life stressors, and trying to spice up our sex life. I did have hope this would change, but then my spouse realized that they were asexual, and that was it. I honestly feel like staying would be more hurtful to them. In the past, when I went through breakups, it was a lot harder to be in the same home as the person who had just dumped you. I was planning to leave that way. I would be the one assuming the financial burden of finding another place to stay. It's my house they are living in, owed by me prior to the marriage. I figured I would get a hotel for a week or two and give them space to process and decide what they want to do. And finally, I had a lot of crap to deal with in therapy in regards to feeling like an effing sexual abuser because of all the times we had sex. My spouse was never enthusiastically consenting. They just went along with it for my sake. It made me feel so gross. We haven't actually had sex since they came out, as I couldn't bring myself to initiate with them anymore, considering they confessed to have never been sexually attracted to me. Alright, well, the vast majority of the community agrees that this is the right move for OP. However, again, the way they are going about it is not nice, and that's what they're advocating for. To giving the partner a heads up or trying to help them through it, not springing the divorce papers out of nowhere and just leaving the same day like OP wants to do. And in the additional context, OP just helps cement the reason as to why they are doing this. That seems totally logical to me. Again, the end of the marriage, not the execution. In any case, it's time to move on to the update to see how this story ends, but before that, if you're enjoying this video, please don't forget to click that like button, leave me a comment, and of course, subscribe if you haven't done so yet. Now let's move on with the update. I told my soon-to-be ex that we needed to talk. We sat down, and pretty much as soon as I mentioned that I wanted to end the marriage due to our sexual incompatibility, they started to become incredibly emotional. First by crying and begging me to reconsider, then when I held fast to my choice, they became very angry with me. They started yelling and being belligerent, so I told them I was leaving, and they followed me out to my car and slammed their fist hard enough on the hood they left a sizable dent. I never even got around to telling them I had already spoken with an attorney or giving them the preliminary draft of our divorce agreement. I went to stay in a hotel, but my soon-to-be ex continued to try to text and call me. They left a few really nasty voicemails and a few begging and crying for us to keep working on our marriage before I blocked them to get some rest. The next morning, I came to realize that the police had been trying to contact me. Turns out that my soon-to-be ex went on an absolute rampage through the house. Many of my personal items were destroyed. Holes punched and kicked into the walls. Some very sentimental items of mine are now damaged beyond repair. They even took my 80-year-old jade plant out back and put it on the grill. That had been my grandmother's plant. I'm devastated about that. Apparently, during the rampage, the neighbors called the cops with a noise complaint. When the officers showed up, there was an altercation and my soon-to-be ex ended up getting arrested. They are now facing charges of disorderly conduct, resisting arrest, and assault on a peace officer. The worst part, though, is that somehow, during the rampage, arrest, or while left alone overnight, my soon-to-be ex's cat got badly injured and needed to be taken to the emergency vet for surgery. She pulled through surgery okay and is currently being boarded at her regular vet's office for post-op care. I am unable to provide the level of care she needs, as I am actually fairly allergic to cats. I can handle living with them with lots of air filters, thorough daily cleaning, and allergy meds, but I can't pet her or be in close contact without breaking out into hives. She should be okay, but I feel really bad for her. Her life is turned upside down. She is away from home, and the last memory she has of her favorite person is seeing them be a monster. I'm not sure what I'll ultimately do with her, but I'm doing what I can to get her feeling better. I knew my soon-to-be ex would get emotional, cry, and yell, and I knew they would be argumentative about it. Those were a big part of why I wanted to have all my ducks in a row before speaking with them. I am super thankful to my therapist who helped me roleplay the talk. I already had a packed bag in my car and was able to stay calm and cool enough to leave when I did. And I am very glad that this was done in one fell swoop. I hate that they destroyed my property and that the cat got hurt. But frankly, this is much better than having to live with them for weeks or months while talking about how I wanted to leave the relationship. That sounds like an actual living hell, especially considering their reaction. My ex still has not posted bail, and I absolutely refuse to do so. They've been calling me from lockup, begging me, but also yelling at me. I have refused to take any of the calls. The preliminary divorce agreement, where I was attempting an amicable divorce with decent spousal support for them, is out the effing window now. My attorney is fairly confident that with the damages to the house, the cost of surgery for my soon-to-be ex's cat, my soon-to-be ex's violent and threatening behavior toward me, and our pre-existing prenup, the divorce will be very favorable to me. I guess my state doesn't suck as hard as I thought. My attorney has advised me to hold off on filing until we know the outcome of my soon-to-be ex's criminal convictions, as that can also impact things. I have a hearing this week for a restraining order against my soon-to-be ex, so if they somehow miraculously make bail, they at least can't come back here. And yes, I'll have a security system installed and I am waiting for the appointment. I will absolutely look into what my area offers as far as self-defense classes. All things considered, I did really love my spouse. For years, I wished I could just turn off my libido and just be okay with our sexual dynamic. But it ate away at me. Ultimately, I'm thankful things played out the way they did. I didn't know my ex was capable of being such a monster. At least I found out. Finally, on a personal note, I have to throw this out into the universe and to get it off my chest. To the person wearing a Batman shirt in Home Depot last Saturday who chatted up the person wearing the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles shirt, thank you. A very deep, sincere thank you. If you are reading this, I hope you see why I declined to exchange numbers with you. There is a lot of chaos in my life at the moment, but you were a glimmer of hope for me of what my future life could look like. Wow, OP, I'm at a loss for words. That was totally unexpected. I'm so sorry that you and the cat had to go through all of that. And all things considered, I feel like your partner is some sort of exception to the rule. And I hope this doesn't come out wrong because you were in a very dangerous situation. But what I'm trying to say is that in a regular situation where your soon-to-be ex isn't an a-hole monster, then blindsiding your spouse with divorce papers, I don't think should be the go-to move. And again, I hope that didn't come out as I wished OP would be in a dangerous situation because that is not what I meant. Anyways, OP, here's wishing the cat a swift recovery and for you a safe future. Take care, OP, and thank you for sharing. And after all of that, let's finish this video with a mood booster post. This post is from the subreddit Petty Revenge and it's by user Jinx Mama. Dad, the crying waitress, and the fart from hell. My dad was an a-hole. He was a lovable a-hole, a compassionate, intelligent, caring a-hole. But piss him off and he became the pettiest a-hole you would ever meet. I have so many stories about his pettiness, but this one is one of my favorites. And before anyone asks, I loved my dad fiercely and miss him every day. He passed way too soon. One important thing to know about my dad is that if having the most noxious fart was an Olympic sport, he would have had multiple gold medals. Long car rides with him could be dangerous, and you knew that if Dad was in the toilet before you were there, you waited until anything he left dissipated, especially if he had just had a nice rich meal. Also, Dad and I both loved diners, and when we traveled, we would always ask where the good local diners were. On one of our college trips, we arrived at our hotel a little early and our room wasn't ready. The hotel clerk was very apologetic. Some of their housekeeping staff had called in sick and they were running behind. Since we hadn't had lunch yet, it was around 2:30ish, we asked the clerk for their diner recommendations and they suggested a place not far from the hotel. Off we go to lunch. Y'all, it's been over 30 years, but I still remember how good that food was. And our waitress, Sandy. Why do I remember her name? Because the couple at the table near us kept yelling it over and over and over again. They were maybe 10 people in the restaurant in total, and Sandy was taking care of most of them. She was on the younger side but knew her stuff. I always like to ask what the staff likes when I'm making my decisions, and she told me what she liked, what they were known for, and what the day grill cook excelled at. As Dad and I were thoroughly enjoying our food, we watched this couple treat Sandy like she was stupid. They sent their food back multiple times and said nasty things about Sandy so loud that we had no trouble overhearing them. Every time Sandy came to drop something off or check on us, she just looked more and more upset. Since we weren't in a hurry and the restaurant wasn't busy, we lingered over our meal, ordered dessert, and were still there when the mean couple paid their check. You paid at the cash register and told Sandy quite loudly that since her service was so bad, all they were leaving her was $1 tip, and they thought that was being generous. They left, and when Sandy came to give us our check, she looked like she had been crying. Dad went to pay the check and gave her a generous tip. When we got in the car, he was pissed, and I got to hear a lecture about how if I ever found out I treated a server like those people had, he would whoop my ass no matter how old I was. We returned to the hotel and had just checked in when another couple walked into the lobby. They headed towards the elevator that we were heading towards, and Dad and I both realized that it was the nasty couple from the restaurant who had been so mean to Sandy. We got on the elevator with them. They were staying on a floor above us. Just as the door opened on our floor and I was walking out, my dad paused, let out a large noxious fart and said, "That's for Sandy," and then walked off smiling as the elevator door closed behind him, hotboxing the nasty couple in with his equally nasty fart. I laughed so hard I cried. I do feel bad for anyone else who had to ride that elevator after that. Well, OP, there's not much to say about this except nice. Your dad sounds awesome. Thanks for sharing, OP. And that's it for today's video. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch it. Now, if you've gotten to this point in the video, I assume that you like these stories that I'm reading out. So here are a couple more that you might enjoy. And if you don't have any time to watch another story right now, save it for later. And also, don't forget to hit that subscribe button.